Hi, I'm Andy Choi with Verizon. I want to welcome all of you back to our small business webinar series. You know, when we first started this series, our very first guest was Mike Michalowicz. He gave us some very practical business advice on what to do right now navigating this new normal. Mike is back for this episode. He's going to talk about how businesses can innovate right now for success. Also returning is our host, Mr. Ramon Ray. Ramon, of course, just motivates you just the minute he starts speaking. Ramon is an entrepreneur, author, and speaker, as well as the founder of Smart Hustle Media. Now, for folks who need a little more background on Mike here, Mike Michalowicz is the entrepreneur behind 3 multi-million-dollar companies and the author of a stack full of highly recommended books, including Profit First, Clockwork, The Pumpkin Plan, and his newest book, Fix This Next. So, without further ado, Ramon, Mike, take it away.
Andy, thank you so much. And again, me and Mike are so excited to be here again, kind of a double hit or double whammy or second appearance for Mike Michalowicz on the Verizon Small Business Webinar Series. I think the title of this, Andy, as you so appropriately introed, is so appropriate today. Innovate for big impact, rewrite the rules for your small business now. It's a fact that the country is starting to reopen quite a bit, Mike, and you have a good eye on this, I think, better than many other people. You've started companies, you help companies, and I know just a few days ago, Mike, I had written a blog post on Smart Hustle called Think Bigger, Think Different, because it just hit me. I'm seeing that for the smallest small businesses who I work with, that we need to do a lot more. It's evident, but it kind of just hit me a bit late. But before we get into some of your topics, Mike, just some intro from yourself, what you're seeing since we last talked that you may want to share with us about, if you like.
Yeah, thanks, Ramon. So in a big shift afoot going on right now. By background, I'm also an entrepreneur. I've been through 2 recessions. This is my 3rd recession. Been an entrepreneur for 25 years. And I write small business books specifically for small business owners. So I'm in contact with what feels like countless and countless entrepreneurs, from wedding planners just a couple of days ago to auto mechanics this morning to everyone in between. And they're being impacted. The wonderful thing is there's a predictable trend that we're going through. I think many businesses are at stage 2, and my goal is to get us on this Verizon call to stage 3 and 4, where the opportunity presents itself.
I love it. So let's dive into it, Mike. And again, as people are here listening to us, as we've said before, you guys know what to do. Those of you who come back, do your questions, put your questions. Mike and I will be done in about 20, 25 minutes. So fire questions, especially the hard ones at Mike. I know for some of you, this is a very challenging, difficult time. Some of you are going through personal health. I know I am with my friends and family. I know Mike is as well. So we honor, we respect that. But for those of us who are plowing through it, we're here to help as well and or get people back on track. So remember, put your questions there. And again, tweet Verizon Business, at Verizon Business on Twitter, Mike Michalowicz on Twitter. I'm at Ramon Ray. Let's dive into it. And Mike has a number of handouts and slides that Verizon will be providing. So Mike, starting off with number 1, this graph, Mike, the business crisis trend, in a way, when you look at the bottom, there's a lot of pit holes, man, and it's kind of scary. So explain what this graph is, the business crisis trend that people will look at as we're going along, and why it's so important. Walk us through that.
Yeah, there's 5 elements to it, so we'll throw it up on the screen. The business crisis trend has 5 keys, and it is kind of scary, particularly when we look at the trough that we're going to go into. But the greatest way through fear is awareness. So let me tell you what the 5 stages are. The first stage is shock. That's when people respond to a crisis by taking inaction. The analogy I use is in a car accident. Hopefully no one on this call has ever been in a car accident, but if you have, many people experience shock, particularly on a more traumatic accident. What it is our brain is over-processing. There's too much information, so it becomes numb to certain aspects. What happens in the shock stage when it comes to mass psychology, because there's macroeconomics, meaning all businesses are affected, so a mass psychology kicks in. Shock happens for a long period of time. There's a numbness. And the most common form of it is inaction. Businesses freeze up. From my experience, there's about a 4 to maybe 12 weeks, up to 3 months of this. As of us broadcasting this, we're a little bit past the halfway point. It doesn't mean everyone's frozen. It just means the mass effect. Some people move faster forward, and that's what I want to do on this call. The second stage is desperation. It's where people overreact to situations. Actually, on our last Verizon call, we were talking about the run on toilet paper. It's illogical. It's funny in the beginning, like who needs toilet paper like this? But at a certain point, there becomes a crisis within crisis because people replicate the behavior, stampede effects. We see it with small business loans, businesses racing to get loans without the consideration, why do you need that loan in the first place? That means there's something fractured in your business. That needs to be where we concentrate our effort. The third stage called evaluation. This is where I want to spend some of our time. Evaluation is picking the right things to do and avoiding the wrong things to do. It's how do we make rapid decisions that are prudent decisions, not desperate decisions, but prudent decisions. That moves us on to stage 4, which is deliberate action. Deliberate action is where we take the actions that will move our business forward specifically. So we evaluate what to do and we actually execute on it. And positions us for the 5th and final stage. I've studied every recession back to the Great Depression that was triggered in 1929 and found a common trend. And at the end of every recession is a burst or a surge period, meaning there's less supply than there is demand. So there's pent-up demand. It may not be activated now. People aren't buying now, but they will buy in the future. The businesses that sustain and maintain through this crisis will then be in the position for the surge and capture all that pent-up demand.
But Mike, that is a key point you just made. I know you're going to talk about this on this slide in the next few minutes, the businesses that survive. So I just want to underline that. That is a big issue, though, to get through this.
Yeah. You have to survive and you have to be prepared. One thing, sadly, Ramon, that many people are not prepared for, and I believe it's the first time in U.S. history this is ever happening, is we're going to get 3 tax estimates due within 60 days. I call this the triple tax punch. It's coming starting July 15th. So what happened is we had installments typically due on April 15th. They were not granted, not waived. They were deferred till July 15th. The June 15th installments due from small business also was delayed to July 15th. So we have 2 installments due on July 15th. Reserve your money today. This is not money that's granted to you. Do not spend your tax reserves. Prepare for that. But also on September 15th, we're returning to our normal schedule. That's only 60 days later. So within 60 days, we're going to have 3 tax installments coming our way. If you're not prepared, I'm so fearful this could be devastating for business. So the action take right now is that tax estimate in your mind, at least pretend you're paying it. Reserve it in a separate bank account. Do not touch that money for any other purpose than when you issue your installments due on July 15th and September 15th.
Mike, who is the best person? I guess a CPA, bookkeeper, accountant, but who is the best person to help us understand? Because you're bringing up a big issue, Mike, the tax implications. That's one issue. Then there's this whole PPP things, which we've talked about on the last call, and Verizon's had other people talk about this throughout. So there's that money, get it or not. And then there's just our businesses, trying to right size them, figuring out all the stuff that you talk about in your books and Profit First and Pumpkin Principle and on down, fix this next. So my point being, who is that best advisor? Because I'm an expert, Mike, in cleaning. I'm an expert in doggy daycare, not money. So who do I turn to help me with this very complex situation?
Yeah, bookkeepers and accountants are the best to go to. Admittedly, just going to someone that isn't even familiar with all the tax law, but just is outside your business, gets out of that desperation mode. So if you don't have access immediately to a bookkeeper or accountant, at least bring on a coach that can give you direction that's much more thoughtful and less biased and emotional. But yes, work with an accountant or bookkeeper specifically, because when you get the PPP or you get any of these loans, some of them may be granted, meaning may become free money, but you have to make sure you apply and follow the rules that will grant it to be free money. I'm fearful also businesses are just getting the money and then spending it and not considering the rules that they need to abide by, and they're putting themselves in a lark. So yes, a bookkeeper, accountant are the best resources for sure.
Right. Which is why, Mike, I guess many, as I like to learn from the larger businesses, which is why many of the smarter ones, as it were, those who could rejected the money. They're like, we don't think we can follow by this. So instead of it being a loan, we'll just do something else.
And you look for the root cause. Like, if you take a loan out for any reason, we have to ask ourselves, why do I need that loan in the first place? There's something wrong. There's only 2 situations. You're incurring too much cost for your business to handle. So is there a way to cut costs? Secondly, you don't have enough margin, meaning you're not making enough sales and don't have enough gap in there to be profitable. So is there anything we can do? And even in a crazy environment like this, where we're seeing this plummet in the local small business economy, that simply means there's needs shifting. It doesn't mean all needs have gone away. What is the new way to sell to clients to get margin? And maybe I can forego a loan. That's the best case in my opinion.
Yeah, I want to get Mike to this one step back method. Before we do that, what are your thoughts? Do you think, Mike, or do we hope, it's kind of a rhetorical question, that more of us small businesses who haven't been so focused on profit first, on money and finances, that maybe, Damon John talks about being financially literate when he talks about things. So my point being, Do you think you'll see a resurgence that more of us are trying to be a bit smarter? More of us are maybe looking at score more and trying to be financially literate, take some courses? I know I've struggled with it, Mike. As you know, we've talked personally about it. Do you see or do you hope that happens out of this crisis?
Yeah, in my mind, there's actually no doubt. Now, I'm a little bit of an optimist, but there's no doubt in my mind that we'll see better fiscal discipline than ever coming out of this crisis. Because in 2008, there was a surge of fiscal fitness in small businesses that I observed, and I loved seeing that. Now we're getting really burned. We're going to see it again from people that weren't prepared. So that's exciting. And the nice thing is you can implement fiscal discipline in the recession. You don't wait till this is over.
Right.
You can start doing it now. The method I teach with Profit First specifically is as money flows in, take a small percentage of that money out as profit, hide it away, run your business off the remainder. It's the pay yourself first principle applied to business. That will serve you in this economy.
Yeah, and Mike, I'm telling you, I've told you personally, millions have told you, but again, you're a rock star for me, Mike, personally, not just a friend, but man, it saved me. And I've only started doing that a year or two ago, and I'm always going to tell everybody, I follow the Profit First method. Mike, let's turn to a one-step back method. What is that all about? Why is it so important, especially today, Mike?
Yeah, so we'll throw the slide up on the screen here. The slide is basically it's 5 squares, and it starts off with the final offering, and we want to work our way back. Here's exactly how it works. We need to reinvent ourselves. We just talked about it. There's a needs shift going on from consumers. The example I use is restaurants. A restaurant, its final offer historically is putting food on the table. It's really that simple. But then we ask ourselves, what happens one step back from that? And what we'll find is our final offering historically is usually an accumulation of multiple mini offerings. So a restaurant, before it puts food on the table, it carries food to the table. Okay, so a mini offering could be carry out or take out. A lot of restaurants are doing that, but you can amplify it to find new ways to satisfy that. In fact, in the town I'm in, there is a food truck and restaurant that have teamed up. The food truck is doing deliveries at night with hot meals, and the restaurant's more of a cooking center than anything else. So they've really reinvented themselves, and their margins have improved. So really a fascinating spin. But you keep on going one step back. So another step back for a restaurant is the preparation of food in the kitchen, cooking in the kitchen. Okay, that could be an offering, cooking in the kitchen. People are cooking right now under quarantine. People are cooking in their own kitchens. Why not give them your best recipes? Why not have a cooking video where your chef shows how to prepare these meals, or really amplify it and have a cooking class? In fact, there's a restaurant that I'm working with. That's exactly what they're doing. They're doing cooking classes 1 day a week for their 5 most popular dishes over 5 weeks. They're charging for the service, and you must charge for your service. We have an obligation to sell. I see businesses trying to give away services, and they've compromised themselves and gone out of business. You have to be fair to your customer as you're fair to yourself. So you have to sell. So this restaurant sold their offering of these cooking sessions. The chef is in the restaurant. It's being broadcast over film, over Zoom or some kind of program like that. And now you're cooking a meal at home, but you're also connecting with neighbors who are also on that Zoom conference. So it's a really powerful way to reconnect community, celebrate, and have your favorite meals. And you go one step back, you keep doing this. One step back would be the raw inventory of meats, condiments, vegetables. You can become a blue apron for your town. Any business you're in, look at the steps you take that accumulate together to get that final offering. All within there are mini offerings.
And it sounds like to me, Mike, just so I understand it, the one step back method is that revenue generation sources, or it could be marketing. I just want to push back on one thing about the paid, and you let me know what you think. We can push back a bit here, but as you know, I'm all about personal branding, celebrity CEO, things of that nature. I do think there could be something to give away, something for free, because I'm a believer in generating leads. So thoughts on that? Just, and feel free to teach me as far as the free part. Is there a place for that in some way?
Absolutely, there's a place for free. The only time free, I totally agree with you, Ramon. The only time free is not applicable is if it's not sustainable and we go out of business. I see businesses giving and giving and giving. They've depleted themselves and they're out of business. That's the ultimate sin. But free is a great return when it can be marketing. So can you give a free offering or a free sample or something? Absolutely. We just got to try to control our costs as effectively as possible, collect those leads, as you suggested, and convert them into paying customers.
Got it. And going back to the step back, I just want to give you a chance to respond to that as well. Just clarify that for us. This step back, it seems like it's a part about business processes, maybe that we can do better, improve on. It seems how can we generate new revenue streams? It seems how can we do better marketing? Am I on the right track here? That the one step back method is a variety of ways to look at your business. Does that make sense? Yes.
So I call this the great big shift. And make sure you throw the F in there. What we're going through this economy is the great big shift, meaning there are new needs from customers. And our job as entrepreneurs is to find it. This is the ultimate entrepreneur's petri dish, to be honest.
Yeah.
I know it's scary and terrifying, but it's really scary and terrifying if you don't change. So ask your customers what they want, reinvent, propose new ideas. But what we did in the past, if it's not working now, we have to find a new alternative way.
Yeah, and I'm going to challenge people who are listening right now. Let's try this for fun. Put in the Q&A, maybe what your business is. Give Mike a little bit of context because I don't have time for follow-up when you do the chat. But I would like to ask Mike if we have time. We'll see. Hey, Mike, here's Jenny from somewhere in USA or somewhere in the world. Here's her business, and let's see. Have fun with Mike. If he could do some one-step back method for your business. So right now, put in the chat who you are, give a little bit of context so he gets the business, make it, a little easy for us. And then Mike, shall we do that? We'll have some fun.
I'm up for the challenge for sure.
Awesome, love it. Let's turn to our next portion, Mike. I know there's several things in this amazing thing. Again, as we're talking about reinventing our businesses here on the Verizon Small Business Webinar Series, don't forget to hit us up on Twitter, tag @Verizon Business, tag Mike McCallowitz even. Ask him questions. Verizon's asked to Mike, do you mind answering some questions? If we don't get to your questions, Mike said, yeah. I'll even take the Twitter and do that. You can hit me up @Ramon Ray. So Mike, the product path has several interesting stages here. Beta, core concept, core offer, derivative offers, and scale. Break that down. Why is that so important for the product path for us to understand that?
Yeah, this is probably the most important slide I can share. We'll throw it up on the screen for you. It looks like that there's 5 elements, and it starts off with beta and goes on. Below each one, you'll see a question to ask. Now, these 5 stages I've used in my own businesses to develop every product I've had and every client I've consulted with. This is the path for bringing a product about. Beta is all the way from the testing stage. Scaling is all the way to the rollout. In the middle there, the core offering, that's when the product starts selling itself. But what I want to talk about and focus our effort on right now is the beta stage, because it's a very important stage in this environment. It's called sell the tell. And just remember this truth. People speak their truth, not through their words, but through their wallets. I don't know if you ever try to sell something to some friends and you're like, that's a great idea. Yeah. I'll buy it. And the day you roll it out, all of a sudden, I have to go to the kid's soccer game. I don't have time to talk to you anymore. They back out. But when people open their wallets, that means they see what value you have. The sell the tell is a technique to generate revenue on a concept alone within 24 hours. Here's the quick breakdown. First, you do that one-step back method, or you reach out to your customers and say, how can we serve you now? A very, very powerful question to ask in this environment. When you get their answers, package it up as your core concept. Spend the next few hours just figuring out the concept. What will you deliver? Here's an example. I had some of my own readership. I asked, what do you need now? Right when the COVID virus broke out. And I thought it'd be a new business book or business concepts. No, the number one thing they wanted was simply confidence. Their confidence was shaken. I've never done self-help books or any kind of stuff in that category, but I quickly researched and reached out to my prospect list and said, hey, if I put together a course on establishing confidence, if I will ultimately sell this for, and pick a number, say $300 is what I plan to sell it for. If I sell it ultimately for $300, but am willing to give it to the first 10 people for $50, would you be interested in being a beta user? And then I put very clearly in there, it's not developed. I'm in the process. It's going to be bumps. There's going to be bruises. Right. But you as a beta user will be able to give me direct feedback. Who wants in? Well, if no one's willing to put down $50 for that, and no one signs up, they're telling me the idea stinks. Mike, ditch it. If people do sign up, they're showing through their wallets there's value. So I did, in this case, get 10 people to sign up, $50 each. It's $500. Maybe it's not life-changing revenue, but that is real revenue. So now I have $500, and then I developed a course specific to those beta users. They're highly engaged. They're giving me feedback. I was able to develop the product very specifically to their needs. Then I went to my list again of prospects and said, now I have this product for $300, and I have 10 testimonials built into it, my beta users. I think any business, let me be careful about saying any, almost any business can sell on its concept. And for many of us, we can do it within 24 hours. If you can sell your concept and be very clear, it's developmental, it's gonna be bumps and bruises, and customers buy it, they love your concept, and you should proceed with it. If you're not making money on the concept, you have to improve the concept itself.
Well, Mike, this is powerful. And I think one thing you said, Mike, that I want to pull out to get people to understand, you said, you mentioned it, in passing the money, this is $500, was it life-changing? Guess what? The reason for Mike doing this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, was not the initial money. He had the long-term game. He needed to get 10 people just to validate, because if 10 people will do it, that means maybe 10,000 will. Is that sound about right, Mike?
No, that's exactly right. But to have $500 in your pocket as you develop it, that really gives you some muscle to move ahead quickly. Plus, now I have an obligation to deliver to these people, so I'm not dilly-dallying. I'm getting right to the brass tacks.
That's right.
And here's a little inside scoop. When it comes to confidence, Ramon, I thought there was confident people and not confident people. That's not true. Every person is confident in a certain aspect or certain aspects of their life. It's how we translate that aspect to where we're not confident. For example, everyone's confident in drinking water, I found out. I yet to find someone who's not. What's the process you followed to get confident, in that? I use a sippy cup. I dribbled a little bit as a kid. I laughed it off. Well, then you got comfortable with it. Where you're not comfortable, discover where you have confidence and apply it there, use that same method, and you'll be successful. That was the essence of what I found.
This is powerful, and I encourage all of you, please download the guides. Verizon is providing these guides from Mike, so download the guides, and it's costing you nothing. Download this to hear this knowledge and let other people know. But Mike, I think this is transformative. I know there's one other thing we want to get to before we dive into questions and things, but I just want to push on another point, Mike, to give you time to talk about it more. I think the aspect also is perfection. Can you just touch on that briefly? Because I think I can hear some people saying, Ramon, well, even before I get to the beta stage, the first stage of Mike's 5-step process of the product path, and we're going to, again, please get the download, get the links. You can look at it probably on the screen now. But the point is that it's not ready yet, even for beta. Mike, it's not ready. It's not ready. I'm not sure when to launch. Talk about that, Mike.
That's dangerous. That's dangerous. I think a good friend of yours, Seth Godin, says ship now, right? He's big into shipping, getting it out the door. The evaluation phase, you'll see if we go back to that slide to the crisis trend, it's in the valley. There's a big danger in the business crisis trend. And here's the problem. It's the analysis paralysis. It's the overthinking. That's why when we go to the beta is deliberate action, right? It's now trying to sell to the market. We tell people there's going to be bumps and bruises. It's not a developed product. We're not sure of the ultimate outcome. And are you willing to join us? In fact, there's a very famous historical figure that did this. His name was George Washington. If I dare say, he went to his army and said, listen, we're going to cross the Delaware. We're going to take on a superior military, better equipped, but we have a great vision. And that's the key of the beta. We can change the world. We can bring about a new free nation. Well, in your product, what is the great vision you have of your concept? That vision and the elements of how you're going to approach it, those should be able to sell. And if you can, you're selling the tell.
That is powerful. So, Mike, we're going to jump to one more thing here. We're at about 20 minutes or so, and I know people are chomping at the bit. Mike, I want to get you to answer my question. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. We're almost there. We're getting there. But I encourage you, please do download the guide as you're taking notes on a piece of paper, whatever it is. This is definitely ninja stuff. So, Mike, the Pareto overlap. We'll throw up this final slide for you. There it is. It looks like that.
Pareto overlap has 4 intersections I want to talk about. Okay. This is the heart of your organization. And when it comes to reinventing yourself, there's also the retention of what's working. This is not just to rebuild yourself. If you have something that's working, we're going to amplify it. Here's the first 4 elements. If you look at the top elements, the 2 circles there, one says clients and one says offering. Pareto studied the distribution of wealth, became a standard phenomenon known as the 80-20 rule. For most businesses, 20% of your client base yields 80% of your revenue. For most businesses, 20% of your offering yields 80% of your profitability. Therefore, the intersection of those top 20% of clients with your best offering, that is the essence of your business. It's the heart of your company. You must protect it. Communicate regularly. Make sure you're of extreme service to them. If the phone rings and there's multiple people calling at once, answer their call immediately. The others can go to voicemail. The lower sections of interesting phenomena too. That's the lowest 20% of customers buying your unprofitable items. Those are the customers that are never satisfied no matter what you do, always complaining. Sadly, they exist, but they exist. Those customers buying offerings that are not profitable is poison to an organization. Jettison, remove those clients. 2 other scenarios is great clients, you love working with them, they pay you on time, but they're not buying profitable stuff. Educate them on the offering. Tell them other things you've available to them. It's got to be appropriate for them. Of course, we have a moral responsibility to serve them, but educate them on the offering. The last scenario is great offerings, but bought by clients that are threatening, difficult to deal with, a distraction. Those clients, it's a tough call, but it's a call on their behavior. Tell them, for us to continue to serve you, you must act as such and such. You must pay on time. You must communicate a certain way. And if they're unwilling to do it, it shows you that they don't value the relationship, and then it's time to jettison them. Protect the core. The heart of your organization is the essence of this. Get rid of the poison and manage the in-between.
Wow. Mike, as I've hosted the Verizon Small Business Webinar Series here, I've gotten very attuned to predicting what people are going to chat and type. So I can hear somebody typing right now, but Mike, my business is special. You don't understand my business. I can't tell Becky, who's been with me for 20 years, that we're not going to serve her. I can't cut this service. It's been in our family business for years. Yeah. Mike, I got to push back, Mike. You don't know what you're talking about from our business, Mike. What do you say?
Yeah, classic momentum trap, right? So I love reading behavioral psychology. I'm not astute necessarily, but I just love to read about that stuff. And there is a phenomenon that we get momentum and we stay stuck in it. We get very comfortable with the uncomfortable things that aren't working, and it actually feels better just to stay doing what's not working than it is taking a leap, because that's terrifying now to something new. Courageous decisions have to be made in this environment. The entrepreneurs who make courageous decisions to move their business forward to sustain are the ones who are going to catch the surge. So it's difficult to do now, but the payoff long-term is tremendous. Sadly, some businesses are making decisions right now for instant relief, but long-term agony. Don't make that mistake.
Wow. And with that, Mike, there's no better jumping off point for us to turn into questions and answers from the audience. Mike, are you ready?
I'm ready, brother. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Let's look at our questions. All right, Mike. So Laura Oldaker, and Laura, thank you so much for your first question. And again, as your questions are coming in, Mike and I are going to answer them, Mike predominantly. And I can see in the chat, keep asking, how do we get the slides? How do we get the content? Remember, go back to brighttalk.com, where you got to this, and the whole replay is there. That's one. You can replay this and take notes if you didn't get it. That's one. Two, remember, Mike has generously provided the slides, the things he's been talking about in the attachment in the slide tab. So all this information is available to you on demand when you like. So Mike, here we go. So Laura, thank you for the question from, by the way, Mike, Academy for Caregiving Excellence. Thank you, Laura, for your great service, what you're doing. Basically, Mike, a question you've heard, she says, Mike, you talk about profit first. You keep saying profit, profit, profit. But Mike, how do we do profit first if I'm trying to make payroll and keep my business alive? So basically, she's calling you out and saying, does profit first still work today?
Yeah, great question. So just to get clear what Profit First is, I wrote a book called Profit First, and the concept is the pay yourself first principle applied to business. We know when it comes to personal savings, what serves people is if you take your retirement savings first and then pay your expenses, because what's left over is what you truly have available. Well, this translates to business too. You first take out your predetermined profit, maybe it's 5 or 10%. You hide the money away. That's the retirement of your business. That's to afford you a future and runway for your business. Now, I realize we're in crisis times, but whatever you take out first, the remainder is what you truly have available. The potential trap Laura's falling in, and I don't know, we have to analyze our business, but the potential trap here is you're maintaining expenses with decreasing sales. That means those expenses are actually idle expenses. You're not driving benefit from them. So we do have to look at the hard decisions of cutting costs if we can't increase sales. I'd immediately look into new ways of increasing sales. Now, I've been watching the questions coming by just now, and there's tons of them. And people are like, how do I get more sales? The number one way to get more sales is to ask your customers, your historical prospects and clients, how may I serve you now? Doing things the old way that aren't generating sales are proof the old way is no longer working. So we have to find a new way, and our historical customers and prospects often can turn us on to that.
Great. Thank you, Mike. And I just want to answer a question that came in. Somebody said they could be probably a friend of yours, Mike, but they said, why should you be selected to talk to us? It could have been, a gnarly question, but I want to answer it because it's fair. There's a lot of knowledge going on. Mike doesn't need me to say this, but I'm just going to say, knowing Mike, it's two things I like about Mike. One, he started several companies and failed at it. So he has a wealth of experience. That's one. And two, he talks to small businesses. So I just wanted to highlight that and bring it out. It's a fair question. There's a lot of people talking about during this time, but Mike is a guy who's built businesses, hired people, fired people, and who engages with and listens and hears like a anthropology of business. So Mike, you need
Thank you for saying. I have a love for small business. I've had 2 exits now, a private equity exit, and I sold a company to a Fortune 500, and I had calamities, companies that didn't start, and I've seen the differences in my own businesses, and I love to study in other businesses. So my insights are from that perspective.
Absolutely. And thank those of you who are asking detailed questions about PPP. I probably won't touch that in this one because I want to move to some of the questions that people are asking about their business, but thank you for asking it. And there's resources we'll try to get you on that as well. On the psychological standpoint, Mike, how to encounter negative rumors for us not to get easily in the flow of a crisis. So I think, Mike, this is about mindset. Can you
Yes.
talk about the mindset we need during this time? Great question.
Wonderful question and critical. Actually, mindset is probably the biggest element of entrepreneurial success. Every business I study that's navigated, sustained, and maintained through recession and exploded on the other side, it's because the leader of that company changed their mindset from this isn't working to how will I make it work. The number one strategy I also see is a technique called block control. Here's how it works. When we feel overwhelmed, it's because we're considering all of the elements. There's so much going on in our mind that we just get overwhelmed. I have to pay rent. I can't afford it. I lost employees. My sales are down. And we freeze up. Block control is taking those considerations and moving it down and say, what can we simply do in the next, say, month? So a shorter period. What can I do by the end of this month to move my business forward? If that still results in a sensation of overwhelm, then we condense it down to 1 week. What can I do in this 1 week to move my business forward? If that's too much, you move down to a day. I see some people moving down to the hour. I see some people get so overwhelmed, I've experienced it myself, that just the next minute matters. I'm laying in bed saying, I just don't even want to get up. Open my eyes. If I simply just open my eyes the next minute, that's one step forward. With my eyes open, I say, just put your feet on the floor. And I move in tiny blocks. Usually that's not necessary at the entrepreneurial level, but I just wanted to show how minuscule it can get. Usually a 1 day level. What's the one thing you can do in this 1 day to move your business a step forward? We're not going to hit home runs necessarily, but we simply want to get up to bat and get on base.
I love it. And Mike, this is probably not a fair question. Many people are asking a similar question, but I want to ask it. So here's someone who's written in their custom clothing business. Let's assume a retailer, Mike, special events and et cetera are cut, but they still have to pay their rent, insurance, and telephone needs. Some of this you've answered already, but could you put your mind in kind of make up a business, or if you want to pretend that Mike owns a clothing shop, what would you do, Mike? Governor Murphy here in New Jersey or Governor Cuomo, New York says, we're not open.
Yeah.
What should this person do? And again, I need to know the details, but make it up humorous for a bit. What would you do as a business owner? You finally were able to hold on until you could open up. Now, What are you doing? What are some things you'd say to this clothing retailer?
Yeah. So first of all, I empathize with you. We will go through grieving stages. This is not dissimilar to losing someone in your family, a loved one. Losing a business in this context is the same way. We go through disbelief, anger, resistance, all those elements. And we just need to move through that quickly. Because if we simply say this has to work, when's it going to return back to exactly the way it was? We're going to stay stuck not doing anything, and time is working against us. So I got to reinvent myself. So first of all, it's the acceptance that the business as it was wonderful, but there is a new normal now, and I don't know how long it's going to last. We have to simply accept that. The second thing is look at your two biggest assets. Asset number one is your historical client prospect list, and I hope you're collecting names and have a way to mail them or email them or call them. They're such a powerful asset because they've bought from you in the past. It means they have a degree of loyalty and experience with you. Reach out to them, email preferably, I would argue, but calling's great too. And simply say, thank you for your past patronage. We want to reinvent ourselves now. How can we serve you like we served you in the past? What new things can we do? How can we deliver on what you enjoyed in a new way? What do you suggest? When you engage your customers in serving the business and giving it direction, they get engaged in actually buying because then they're now part of the business. That's the number one thing. The other asset you have is your old inventory. The inventory that's sitting on the shelves there. How can you reposition it? Can you do a fashion show where you mail it to your best customers and say, listen, here's the new products we have in. We're going to go from home to home and we're going to zoom in and you're going to do a home fashion show with 10 people and get your community involved in that. Can you use that inventory in a new capacity? Because idle inventory is cash sitting on the shelf. How do I activate it? Maybe it's a fashion show. There's 100 ideas, but that's just one that came to mind.
And this seems to go from stealing from your playbook, Mike, of going backwards a bit, meaning, I'm not going to say it all again, but the aspect of, what was it, going backwards?
Yes, well, the one step back technique,
yes.
I believe it applies to every business. It's nice to know the business intimately, but if I don't know much about clothing, but I suspect you have a dressing room. I suspect before you sell clothes, people try it on. And that's why I went to, try on clothes. Dressing, you have them do it at their homes, do a fashion show. Can you have a contest of people, renaming some of your clothing? There's a powerful technique. Dale Carnegie wrote a lot about this. What he said is the most powerful name in the English language is people's own names, or most powerful word in the English language is people's own names. That's why really smart restaurants will put a booth saying Ramon Ray or someone's name up there because it'll increase your loyalty. Can you now name your whoever buys products from you that they own that line, so to speak, for the next month or two? And now you can reactivate people becoming energized. Can you do parties, like those Tupperware parties, but can you do virtual parties? We've got to start thinking outside the box of what we historically have done.
Yeah, very nice. And by the way, if you're hearing this and you asked this question, if you want to email me, I'm going to buy and send you a copy of Mike's book, Ramon@smarthustle.com. Email me and I will send you a copy of Mike's book. I just love the question. Another question, Mike, is the question coming from an advertiser. Another tough question, but again, this is to pick your brain.
Yeah.
They're saying here, Mike, advertising's dead, as it were. It's not going to happen. The last thing people want to do is advertise, which I would disagree with the premise of the question, but let me ask it. Last thing they want to do is advertise. So what do you say, Mike, for an advertising company? What would Mike's playbook be? If you own an advertising firm, what are some things Mike would try to do to get back in the game if you're an advertiser?
Yeah. So what's the new type of advertising people want to do, or what's the new way they want to get the word out? So we've amplified our advertising. So I'm with you, Ramon. Not every business has decreased advertising or stopped. It's just new packaging. Now, the interesting thing is we got a call right when this breaking out from a firm who said, what about educational marketing right now? Get the word out in a new format. Use the established platforms like YouTube and these other platforms that are out there that'll get good natural SEO. That advertising agency called S3 that reached out to us, S3 is directing us through how to do these new forms of educational advertising, and it's starting to show returns. So if we say something's not working, I just challenge us to ask, what is not working about it? Because there's probably a new way to form it. But if we have this belief saying it's just simply not working, our mind will start affirming that and we won't look for alternatives. So if something's not working, say, okay, the old way wasn't working. What are new considerations? What's no one done before? Or what's a new way to make a new flavor out of this?
Yeah, I agree, Mike, because I just want to underline this because I think most of the time in my experience and seeing it, just echoing what you're saying, Mike, it's not that it's not working necessarily. Sometimes it is, right, but oftentimes you just didn't, and we're all hard working. So you're working hard, but you didn't push enough, go long enough, try enough different combinations to unlock that.
Try iterate. And I encourage, get out of our industry. You know, the day the COVID, 6 weeks ago, I called an emergency meeting with every business owner I knew that was not in my business space. In fact, it was one from each different business space. What was interesting was finding is that when a collective industry meets, we start affirming our beliefs. You know, retail is struggling. Yes, retail is struggling. Retail is never going to make it. Yes, it's never going to make it. But when you start getting people that are outside your industry that don't have the context, they start bringing really thoughtful, out-of-the-box ideas. So we had this call and started generating all these new ideas. It brought about new products for our own company. So can you meet up with people outside your industry and get their thoughts? It may not fit within the rules, and that's the best part.
Yeah, this is powerful. And again, a shout out to Paulina. Thanks for asking, Paulina, the high-end consignment store you have. I think Mike kind of touched on that with clothing, but Paulina, I see your question and thank you. Let's talk about nonprofits here, Mike. The problem we have is getting the word out to donors with deep pockets to assist us in getting started. We don't have a trailer, a housing facility to get started. How do you see marketing working is essence of the question. Marketing for nonprofits, talking about getting the prospect list out and things of that nature. So in essence, recurring revenue, Mike, nonprofit, getting the word out, reaching high-end donors. Rip that apart however you like.
Yeah, well, you know, in anything, we have a very compelling reason or need to the audience, and pictorial wins over every time. You know, there was this all of a sudden this sudden shift toward giving meals to doctors and so forth, and in many areas, our area included, and they put pictures of doctors holding signs up saying, "Please stay safely at home so we can serve you safely here," and it started this movement. Well, homeless shelters started to drop in their food supplies, and someone in our community brought an awareness to this by showing, you know, people that were hungry and changing the direction. So how to make it very visual. The second thing is big donors may be hard to come by because they're being pulled in so many directions right now. Sometimes smaller donors win. If I recall the Obama campaign very effectively, you know, he leveraged the power of small momentums over these big one-time donors. So can we consider small donations as an option? Just look outside the box, but it's got to be a need that's very pictorial and very much pulls into the heartstrings right now because so many people are trying to pull into the heartstrings.
Yeah, and I think, Mike, what you're saying is it seems like all of us just need to dig deeper. Again, you referenced Seth Godin earlier. You know, he's famous for saying, raise your hand higher. So,
yeah, and I'm, by the way, I'm not saying, I know everyone, I'm watching some of the chat here. I know everyone's working extremely hard. I'm not actually talking about working harder.
Right.
Because I think the reason we're working harder is we're trying to do what isn't working and we're pushing harder at it, which I think Anthony Robbins says is the definition of insanity. Doing what's not working, but more of it, expecting different results. What we need to do is start behaving or doing different things. So I want to challenge you. What are the things you've never done? And look outside your industry and start testing with that. So it is work smarter, not harder. I know that's easier said than done, but that is what's necessary.
Someone here, Mike, has a financial literacy business. Probably, I'm imagining just, kind of not quite like yours. You do a variety of things, but
Yeah.
this is kind of in your wheelhouse. Why
Yeah.
don't you just in brief, Mike, share your playbook as much as you can for this person, financial literacy business. How do you think, what should they start doing? Maybe you have some ideas because this is kind of what your company does well.
Yeah. So I have a company called Profit First Professionals. We do financial literacy for entrepreneurs, and we are on an increase. We're growing now. And the reason we're growing is we're not doing the I told you, you shoulda, coulda type thing. And I think that's the mistake. I'm not saying this person's doing that. But I do see, well, you should have been prepared 6 months ago. Okay, great. Thank you for telling me the blatantly obvious. What do I do now? So we're introducing what's called micro change. We're saying in this environment, it's the smallest wins that are confidence builders. So we're not going to focus on getting rich. We're not going to focus on accumulating wealth. We're simply going to focus on, can we pull this off for one day, make a little bit of money today and a little bit of money tomorrow by doing proper savings, by taking your profit first and so forth. Those little wins start building momentum and strength, even in an environment like this. And that's why our business is growing. A lot of clients are coming on doing these micro wins, feeling something positive in such a negative environment, and they're getting more engaged and making more progress.
Yeah, and I think that is important to highlight, Mike. Mike and I are going through we're in the same earth that everybody else is in.
Yeah.
Same thing with my business. I've had to do some of your principles, and Smart Hustle is growing. Profit First is growing, and other things we're doing. I'm blessed to say that. Mike, here's another tough one. I'm trying to trip you up, man. This is not quite.
Thank you. I appreciate it, brother.
This is Wendy, who has a limousine business. And again, I wonder, Mike, is there a point where some businesses you say, listen, it's not going to work, but let's try it. Luxury transportation, weddings, proms, sporting events, airport transfers. Anything you want to say to Wendy from Linehan Limousine Service, ideas for her as your, car service is a tough industry, things she should consider?
Yeah. So, right. So transportation may be gone, but what can your vehicle still be used for? Can they be put in movies or something like that? Could they be used for pictures? The graduations are happening right now. I am seeing a lot of graduation pictures, college graduations, where students are going back to their old school and they're taking a picture there. I see proms coming up, right? Well, people still want to take pictures in front of the limo. It may just be one person in front of the limo, but maybe there's a way to use that in that capacity. Here's the thing. I don't know the exact idea, but I do know who knows your past customers.
Yes.
So reach out to them, say, what's the new way I can serve you? I gave you an idea of these prom pictures. It may be a stupid idea or maybe a great idea. The only way you're going to know is to test it. I told the sell the tell technique. Send out an email saying, hey, prom's approaching. Do you want to get a picture with this beautiful, beautiful vehicle in the picture? We'll drop it off. Our driver will stay 12 feet away or whatever like that. So you can take pictures and then we'll remove it from your facility and it's only X number of dollars. Who's in? If no one's willing to open their wallets, it's a bad idea. Throw it out, but it costs nothing. We just explained it in 30 seconds. And that's all you need to do. If it's a good idea and people start opening their wallets, then you pursue it.
I love that, Mike, and I think it's powerful. Shout out to John D'Amato, who's a photographer here in the New York area. He started taking photographs of virtual events. It sounds weird, but Mike, you and I are people who need photos, right? I'm calling him up saying, dude, next time I'm on video like this, I want it, because my cell phone doesn't come out so well. He takes nice shots, the blurry background, and his with a nice setup behind it. So to Mike's point, we have to think different.
I'll tell you, some smart photographers are taking great action. I see one photographer actually exploding in revenue right now because they're not doing photos. They realize everyone's gone over to Zoom, BrightTalk, these different platforms. And they said, most offices are staged like this. It's just a white wall. He goes,
yes.
You need background staging. You need appropriate lighting. You need key light, backlight, fill light. I'll design it all for you over $100 consultation. And companies are picking that up left and right. In fact, I need to get myself on the schedule for that.
Absolutely. Mike, what do you say to the businesses that are completely closed? And again, you need to, of course, understand a lot more about finances and all this, but just talking to people who say, Mike, let's pretend we've tried everything. This is not going to work. I'm the sole owner. We've let go of our employees. Can you talk to that individual who's tried it? They used to have 5 employees a month ago or 2 months ago. They're done. What do you tell them personally, Mike? They got their family, their wife, or their husbands in turmoil. Any thoughts?
Yeah, well, first of all, that you successfully built a business is tremendous. Businesses won't survive when there's a lack of money. So when a recession hits in, the spend of money drops. We can't all take that same dollar and tear it up into little pieces and hand it to each other. Some businesses will go by the wayside. But the business owners that take that failure as a learning lesson to start a new business or pursue a new opportunity are best served. My biggest collapse cost me my house, cost me my cars, cost me everything. And when it happened, I didn't wish it upon no one. I don't ever want it to happen again. It's been the greatest learning lesson of my life, that I was committed to understanding my business intimately and moving it forward very prudently and maintain the finances appropriately. So that past loss is not a loss. It is a lesson. Now can we spin to something new? But the other thing is, let's not hang on to something that's dying. I hate to say this too, but if a business isn't working and you're proven it can't work, don't try to cling on to something that's not working. It's just going to put you deeper and deeper into the hole. And I believe, there's no data to back this, but I don't believe we're returning to back how business was pretty soon. And I don't think we actually may ever, for some industries, may permanently shift here. So let's take that lesson of loss, of what we had of that business, take the best out of it and spawn something new. Go about it in a new way, but go after it full throttle. And don't cling on to that loss anymore.
100% Mike. And Mike is very responsive on Twitter. You guys can just look up his name, Mike Michalowicz. I encourage you to go to his website, look at his books, but you know what? He has a boatload of free stuff. In fact, I think it's too much free stuff that he has to give away. So check out his website. I'm at smarthustle.com, ramonreed.com. And remember, you can go to the same website link you're looking at now to get this webinar, to get the slides. And before we do that, Mike, let's hear a final message from Andy. Mike, thanks for joining us, man. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
And that's it for today's webinar. Our big thanks to Ramon and Mike for all their insights and ideas on continued success in business. You can check out the other webinars in this series on our Bright Talk channel page as well. You can also register for our next webinar. It's Tuesday, May 19th. We are excited to have Mr. Steve Strauss talking about affordable ways to find customers right now. So please join us next Tuesday and for all of the events to come during our small business webinar series. Have a good one. We'll see you then.